We all know the world-famous success stories, the titans of vision, the icons of manifestation, the great teachers who walked before us and taught us how to shape our world. We've read their words, we've followed their techniques, we've taken in the theories, the strategies, the affirmations. But what about the silence? What about the moments you're alone at night, feeling like you've done everything right and still nothing's changed? What about the stillness no one tells you about? The one person who did speak to it, who dared to say, "Don't try," was Neville Goddard. And if you truly understand what he meant, it'll change everything. See, Neville wasn't a motivational speaker. He wasn't trying to hype you up or sell you a success formula or convince you to grind harder. Neville didn't believe in trying. He believed in being, and that's exactly why he's the perfect person to learn from. Neville wanted to be more than a preacher, more than a writer, more than just another man lost in the material noise of the world. He wanted to awaken, but for years, no one took him seriously. His early lectures in the 1930s and 40s were often dismissed. His ideas, too radical, too mystical, too subtle for a world obsessed with effort and outcomes. They wanted steps. He offered stillness. They wanted rules. He offered awareness. They wanted motivation. He offered truth. And the truth he offered is the same one that's still shaking people awake today. You are already that which you seek. Be still and know I am. But this truth wasn't always easy for Neville. He worked as a dancer in New York City. He struggled financially. He questioned everything. He wrestled with doubt, with identity, with his own conditioning. He had to learn through deep personal experience that the world was not something to fight against, but something to reimagine from within. And that's the first great lesson of Neville's life. Don't try, assume, because trying implies effort, and effort implies separation. To say, "I'm trying to manifest money," or "I'm trying to be more confident," is to confess, subtly, that you do not already possess what you seek. Trying is the echo of doubt dressed up as progress. But assumption is power. Assumption says, "It is already done." Neville told the story of his own breakthrough. He was broke, lost in New York, searching for a way to return to Barbados, but he had no ticket, no money, no clear plan. He didn't try to figure it out. He didn't force a solution. He did what no one else would think to do. He sat in a chair, he closed his eyes, and he imagined himself already home. He felt the salt air, he saw the island. He walked through it, not as a dreamer, but as a man who was already there. And within days, a telegram, a ticket, a literal manifestation of what the world would have called impossible. But to Neville, it was inevitable, because he had lived it first, within. All transformation begins with an intense, burning desire to be transformed, but the change does not come through effort, it comes through assumption. This is where the world gets it wrong. We've been taught to hustle, to fight, to prove, but Neville didn't teach you to hustle. He taught you to accept, to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. That's where it happens. That's where it's done. In the quiet moments, when the door is closed, when the world is silent, and you close your eyes and feel it as real. He wasn't telling you to grind your way to success. He was telling you to become success in the unseen and watch the seen world conform. And yet, how many of us are still trying to fix ourselves, trying to become worthy, trying to earn something that already exists in our imagination? This is the trap, and this is why Neville's tombstone might as well say it too. Don't try, because trying is what we do when we don't yet believe. Trying is what we do when we're still outsourcing our power to the outer world. Trying is what we do when we forget that creation begins in consciousness. Neville was not successful because he learned how to master the world. He was successful because he mastered the art of leaving the world alone. He didn't react, he created. He didn't push, he assumed. He didn't chase, he became. He lived in the feeling of his wish fulfilled, even when the world gave him every reason not to. And that's what most people will never do, because it's easier to complain, to beg, to try. But trying keeps the desire alive, and assumption makes it real. Trying is rooted in fear. Trying comes from the assumption that you're not there yet, not enough yet, not ready yet, not deserving yet. But Neville didn't teach from fear. He taught from identity. He didn't say, "Try to become wealthy." He said, "Assume the feeling of wealth. Occupy that state. Let it feel natural." Why? Because your identity creates your reality, not your effort, not your effort, not even your desire. Neville's work wasn't about changing the world. It was about changing your concept of self. You rise in life by the assumptions you make about yourself. Assume a noble concept of yourself and persist in it, for that is the only thing that matters. Think about that. How much of your life has been spent chasing better outcomes, hoping for luck, waiting for external validation, when all along the real transformation was waiting for you to quietly, completely redefine who you are? Most people try to manifest from the same old self. They visualize wealth while still feeling like they're struggling. They affirm confidence while still walking in shame. They try to feel loved while holding on to rejection. And that's why it doesn't stick. Because they're trying to change their reality without changing their identity. But Neville knew. Trying is a mask for doubt. Trying keeps the wish out there. Trying keeps you separate from the state you're meant to become. And this is the core of his philosophy. You do not attract what you want, you attract what you are. That's why trying never works. Because trying says, I want it, but I'm not it. Assuming says, I am it, therefore it must be. Here's the second lesson. Be still. Stop forcing. Let it be done unto you. Neville often quoted scripture, not in the religious sense, but in the symbolic sense. To him, the Bible was not history. It was a psychological drama unfolding in every individual. So when he said, be still and know that I am God, he wasn't speaking of a distant deity. He was reminding you that the creative power of the universe lives within you. And the door to that power? It's not effort. It's not stress. It's not overthinking or obsessing or manipulating your environment. It's stillness. Stillness is not laziness. Stillness is confidence without noise. Stillness is a deep, inner surrender to the reality that what you've assumed is already yours. Neville taught that the most powerful time to do this was just before sleep, when your conscious mind is fading and the subconscious becomes receptive. In that twilight state, you don't try to figure out the details. You simply enter the feeling. You don't push. You don't analyze. You just dwell in the end. Feel yourself already there, living in the reality of your wish fulfilled. No begging, no waiting, no trying, just being. Because that's what creates. And here's the paradox. Most people are trying so hard to change their lives, they never realize that all they're trying is reinforcing the belief that something is still missing. But Neville's method bypasses all that. It says, you don't need to chase money, assume wealth. You don't need to beg for love, assume you are already loved. You don't need to hope for success, assume it's who you are. That's why Neville never gave you step-by-step strategies. He didn't offer 10 habits of millionaires or morning routines for alpha energy. He offered a single, profound command. Live in the end. In other words, stop trying to get there. Be there now. Emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Don't rehearse the outcome. Rest in it. Let it become your new normal. Let the assumption become so natural that the old state fades like a dream. And that's when the world starts to shift, not because you tried harder, but because you stopped trying altogether. Trying holds tension. Trying holds resistance. Trying is a confession of separation. Neville understood this. He wasn't trying to change the world. He was learning to change his concept of self again and again until the world had no choice but to follow. He saw that reality was not something solid or fixed. It was a mirror, a reflection of your inner state. So when you try, the mirror reflects effort, struggle, waiting. But when you assume, when you dwell in the end, when you walk with the knowing of already being, the mirror reflects it back. The world, as he said, cannot help but respond. That's what most people miss. They try to bend the mirror, to polish it, to manipulate the reflection. But the mirror is not the cause. It is the effect. The cause is you. The cause is always your inner state, the quiet, steady, dominant assumption you carry when no one's watching. That's why trying fails. And that's why assumption, done in stillness, always wins. Trying is seductive. It gives you something to do, some effort to cling to, some movement to point at when the world doesn't shift fast enough. But effort without alignment is a trap, and Neville knew this. That's why he often spoke directly to the spiritually exhausted, the ones who meditated, visualized and affirmed, yet still felt stuck. He didn't tell them to try harder. He told them to stop altogether, because spiritual effort, when done from a place of lack, is still lack. Saying, I will become, I am working on it, one day I'll have it, only reaffirms the idea that it is not already here, and what you affirm most consistently wins. To desire a state is to have it, because the very desire is proof of its existence. But the world teaches the opposite. It teaches you to prove yourself, to earn worth, to fight for visibility, to force your will into the system. And so most people live life as one endless attempt, endless becoming, endless trying, never realizing that trying is resistance in disguise. Imagine walking into a room and saying, I'm trying to sit down. It's absurd. You either sit or you don't. You don't try to sleep. You don't try to believe. You don't try to exist. You just do. Neville applied that same effortless logic to manifestation. You don't try to manifest. You assume it. That's the secret most never hear. The moment you're trying to manifest something, you're silently declaring that you don't have it yet. You're reinforcing distance. You're energizing the gap. But when you simply close your eyes, enter the state, and feel it as real, the gap dissolves. The time between desire and fulfillment begins to compress, and reality starts bending to match your inner shift. That's what Neville meant when he said, all transformation is based upon suggestion. And this can only work where the state is accepted as true, not where the affirmation is repeated, not where the vision board is updated, not where you try to feel it, but where the assumption is accepted, quietly, naturally, deeply. He used to tell people this again and again. Let the thing you want clothe itself in your imagination. Don't look at it from afar. Don't long for it. Don't try to get there. Be there. Wrap yourself in the reality of already having it. Don't try to get rich. Feel the security of already being wealthy. Don't try to get well. Feel the ease and vitality of being healed. Don't try to be loved. Feel the warmth and presence of already being cherished. This is where the mind resists. This is where the ego screams, but nothing has changed, and that's the test. Can you remain faithful to the new state, even when the world still looks the same? That's the moment most people break. They plant the seed of assumption and then dig it up the next day to see if it's growing. But as Neville said, faith is loyalty to the unseen reality. Faith is not just believing it will come. It's knowing it already exists, that it's yours because you've accepted it inwardly. Trying collapses that faith, but stillness preserves it. He told a story once about a woman who wanted reconciliation with her husband. They were separated. No contact. No hope on the surface. She didn't beg him to call. She didn't try to make it happen. Instead, she sat in the quiet and imagined the feeling of being back together. The way his arms felt around her, the way their home looked, the peace of being whole again. She didn't try to get him back. She felt him back. And in less than a week, the phone rang. Why? Because her outer world was compelled to reflect the new state she faithfully assumed. That's not magic. That's law. You assume the state. You persist in the state. And the state externalizes. Not by effort, but by faithful identification. The world doesn't change because you try harder. The world changes because you finally stopped trying and started being. And this is the hardest pill for the modern world to swallow. You don't have to hustle to deserve what's already yours. You don't have to climb a mountain to prove you're ready. You don't have to earn a miracle. You just have to accept it emotionally before the world can deliver it physically. Trying is a human invention. Trying is rooted in fear, performance, and disbelief. But being is your birthright. And once you start living from the feeling of already having, once you stop reacting and start assuming, you'll understand exactly why Neville's words still echo through time. Don't try. Live in the end. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and let it be so. There's a moment, quiet, subtle, when you realize the old self is no longer welcome. The version of you that used to strive, that used to beg the world to notice, that used to wait for change, chase dreams, check for signs. That version doesn't belong anymore. because now you know there's nothing to chase. There's no future version of you waiting to be earned. There's only this moment, this feeling, this assumption. And once you've chosen it, really chosen it, the old self begins to dissolve. You don't need to fight it. You don't need to kill your past. You just need to stop identifying with it. The world will try to pull you back, to remind you who you used to be, to test your conviction, to offer you more chances to try. But you've already moved. You're not fixing your life. You're living from a new one. And once you've claimed it, that's the end of trying. Neville said, "Change your conception of yourself, and you will automatically change the world in which you live. Do not try to change people. They are only messengers telling you who you are. Revalue yourself, and they will confirm the change." This is the final layer. You don't need to push the world to cooperate. You don't need to explain yourself. You don't even need to convince your mind. You simply return to the inner state. You remain in it. You allow it to harden into fact, not with effort, but with persistence. The world is not outside you. It's an echo, a mirror, a song that plays back whatever note you struck in consciousness. So if you feel frustrated with the reflection, don't fight the mirror. Don't shout affirmations at it. Don't try to polish the image while still feeling like the same old person inside. Change the note. Change the feeling. Change the assumption, and let the echo catch up. Don't try is not about giving up. It's not about sitting still while hoping life figures itself out. It's about exiting the loop of unconscious effort and entering the quiet mastery of being. Because once you truly assume, there's nothing left to force. The money, the love, the peace, the health, they stop being things you strive for and start becoming natural extensions of who you already are. That's the secret Neville gave us. It was never about building a perfect life. It was about awakening to the truth that you already carry it within. So what do you do now? You live. Not in the waiting, not in the hoping, but in the knowing. You let go of how. You let go of when. And you return again and again to the state of already done. You let the feeling become normal. You let the assumption become familiar. And you let the world do what it must, rearrange itself. Because it will. It always does. That's the law. So stop trying to prove yourself. Stop trying to become worthy. Stop trying to make it happen. Instead, walk like someone who already has it. Talk like someone who's already living it. Sleep like someone who knows it's already theirs. And when doubt creeps in, as it always will, don't argue. Don't panic. Don't go back to trying. Just smile. And return to the feeling, because in that moment, quiet, subtle, unseen, the whole universe begins to move. Neville left us with no blueprints, no hustle strategy, no 10-step method, just one timeless, soul-altering truth. Don't try. Assume. Feel it real. Live in the end, because everything you've ever desired is already yours in consciousness. And once you accept that, once you let go of trying, the world will follow, exactly as it always does, exactly as it must. You don't need to chase what's already yours. You don't need to try. You only need to assume and be. Return to the feeling, live in the end, and watch the world rearrange itself around your new state of being. Until next time, stay still. And remember, it is already done. I hope you enjoyed this video. See you in the next one.